Hello everyone, this is Frank DeFreitas and welcome to HoloTalk, the Internet's laser and holography talk show, enjoyed in over 42 countries throughout the world. And now, here's this week's show.
Hello?
Hello, Paula.
Yeah?
I know I'm a few minutes early.
Yeah, it's the right time. You're spot on.
Oh, good, because I was very nervous about calling.
No, it's okay. That's exactly right. It's nice. It's a beautiful sunny morning, and, it's a perfectly reasonable and easy hour for me to be awake. Where are you?
I'm just I'm about 90 minutes outside of New York City in a small town called Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
I got nervous because I didn't know if I would dial your telephone number right. And I was going to call earlier in the day, not your number, but I was going to add a few different numbers to your number.
Just sort of see if anyone picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no need. It's okay. And don't worry, we're used to people ringing us up at the wrong time because we know quite a lot of people who live in Europe and in America, and that's fine.
So I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Yeah.
And we'll start off by saying that we're fortunate to have an artist come on the show because a lot of the shows are so technical in nature.
Right.
That I'm expecting this to be a much different type of show with a different flavor, and I think the listeners will appreciate that.
Okay.
Now, you have a new work that's out now that you just finished called The Light.
Yep.
For John, which is in parentheses.
Yes.
And from what I've been able to see on your website and from the photos that you sent to me, it appears to me that that's a white light transmission hologram.
Yeah, it's an embossed hologram. It's a white light transmission hologram, but I embossed it to a reflective surface so that, it acts like a mirror in, like most hologram stickers.
Oh, I see.
That the light, the sunshine, or whatever light you play on the copper sheet actually reverses the position of the light, so it plays back from behind, yeah. The copper acts as a mirror, like in ancient Greek society where they just polish bronze, polish metal very highly to make it into a mirror. A lot of my new artworks use that ability of metal to be polished to a mirror finish and then emboss a hologram into the surface of the metal so that the hologram's integral to the metal.
Oh.
So that's what I did in that work, The Light for John.
Yeah. So that's actually not a backed hologram. That interference pattern is actually embossed into the actual metal itself.
Well, that's funny that you think it's an interference pattern. It's actually a drawing. The holograms are all of handmade drawings that I did, and then of 3 different direction cross-hatching, one going kind of X, Y, 2 lots of diagonals in the XY. Well, obviously it has got a bit of a Z dimension to it, but then there's another grid of lines that goes back just along the Z axis, which of course you can't do in a 2-dimensional drawing. You can only do it in a hologram that's a drawing. So yes, there's 20 of those holograms that are all cross-hatched drawings of white lines out in space.
Wow, that's incredible. And I noticed in some of your photographs that I could see the reflection of you taking the picture. Now that's intentional, right?
Well, it's just to kind of show you that, it's reflective, so that you can sort of see that the work acts like a mirror, so that if you get on certain angles, the part that's left blank is like a shadow, and from other points of view, you can see yourself reflected in it. So it's very kind of interactive, like a lot of holographic work. You need to really walk around it to experience all the different ways in which it can look.
I understand that the technique that you used was actually taken from a paper that was published many, many years ago, and it's the fact that historically with painting and drawing, that the origins began with someone just tracing an outline of a shadowy figure. Yeah,
I love that idea. I knew that legend right from when I was, I don't even know how I heard about it, but I heard about this Greek woman who traced around her, I suppose, her boyfriend before he was going away so that she'd have something to remember him by. And then her father, who was a potter, made it into a sculpture. But that legend of tracing around the outline of figure appears in many cultures all over the world as the very beginnings of drawing.
Is that where you drew your inspiration for doing this piece?
Yeah, I like the idea of kind of reenacting that, only ironically, instead of just tracing a line, the lines are actually not on the surface, they're holograms, and so the lines are actually out in three-dimensional space. Mm-hmm. And instead of the area inside the line just being flat, the area inside the line is a mirror. So it kind of changes the whole story and makes it a very interesting holographic story, I think.
That's a lot of thought to go into a hologram. Most of the holograms I've ever done, I put an object down and did a shot. Which is why this is an interesting show. You know, I realize that true artists, when they're working within the medium of holography and any media that they choose to work in, always have some sort of reference to either something in the past or a message that they're trying to get across. And many times when we look in a book or a catalog and we just see a piece, we lose all of that, and that takes a lot away from the actual piece itself, to not know the story and the steps taken by the artist, both physically and also mentally and emotionally, to get to that piece.
It's so important, the context in which you read the work as well, because, I mean, in a book, I suppose you've got the advantage of writing down there what your intentions were with it, you know, like an artist statement. That's why that writing about the hill and the vale, the piece of writing about how light has a kind of a presence, and that light's been with us through all civilization. You could quote something like that in a book. But, I mean, having an exhibition is a great way of putting your work into context, because if you're in a group show, the other people's work helps to kind of frame in the viewer's mind, you know, the sort of things that are being thought about in this exhibition. And it's really helpful to have that kind of context. I don't know if you know, but we've got another website called Shadowy Figures.
Yes, I was just on it, yeah.
Yeah, that was a show that I co-curated with John Gage, the art historian, and he chose all the historic work and I chose all the holographic work. And we were able to make an exhibition which compared how darkness had been used in traditional artwork and how darkness had been used in holographic work. And I think that was very successful because people were actually able to see the connection between how artists at all different periods of time had used darkness effectively for abstraction.
Do you make any type of distinction between light and darkness? I mean, for instance, does light represent a positive to you and darkness represents a negative, or is there no relationship that they share like that at all?
Well, I suppose when you make holograms, you kind of think of darkness. You realize that there are all different kinds of darkness, that darkness isn't just like blog. I don't know if it's true or not, but they say, you know, in Iceland there's about 80 different words for snow and ice because you can see all the distinctions. Well, although I don't have different words for darkness, I think there are different kinds of darkness, and I think from making interferometry tests, just, you know, when you set up your basic Michelson interferometer, when you want to see if your hologram's going to work, you don't see that darkness as a bad thing. You see it as, like, really where the light was pushed away from that place. And you see light and darkness really as, well, I've come to see them as part of the one thing. It's like a cycle that at one point it is light and then at another point it's dark. It's sort of the same thing, showing you different aspects of itself.
You've been involved with holography for a long time. I remember one of the first works that I saw of yours. I don't know, it was a large laser transmission hologram, and correct me if I'm wrong and if I'm mistaking you with someone else.
No, that's me.
But I believe it was a bar. I remember glasses hanging, you know, over a bar or something. You worked with a lot of large format laser transmission holograms, didn't you?
I absolutely love that, and I want to continue doing that. I think I haven't actually gone back to doing laser transmission work for a long while, but I think that this new generation of diode lasers is going to make life so much easier and so much more fun. And although I have been working predominantly with the figure and with white light work for the last probably about, 10 years or so, I've been doing a lot of experiments with that, mainly because I really hope that I could work with holo video. These have all been, in a way, kind of pre-visualizations for working with projected real-time laser. Again, laser works. But, yes, I love the effect that you can get with laser transmission holograms just by the viewer's eyes reaching out and searching such a long way into such a deep space. That has, because, of course, it's a physiological effect experienced by the eye because there's true 3D there. It has a totally different effect on a viewer than just looking at a two-dimensional or lenticular or stereoscopic representation of a deep field of space.
Do you like the fact that it's monochromatic, or if you had the opportunity, would you do 3-color laser transmission holograms?
I'd like to try 3-color laser transmission holograms. It would be very interesting. But I think that monochrome has one advantage in as much as it seems, and I can't actually quantify the reason, it seems to have a connection to the unconscious mind. Often black and white images and black and white photography can have a very kind of deep psychological impact that making it in colour can't have. And it's just kind of a code in the art world that if you make something that's monochromatic, it seems to reference the unconscious mind more directly than if you work in colour. So I wouldn't say I'm not going to do it. I am very interested in kind of tapping into people's dreams and their projected imagination. So monochrome has been quite good for me in the past, but for sure I'd love to try a full-color laser transmission hologram.
Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your history in holography? And I don't think that there's probably any listeners out there that's involved with holography that has not heard the name Paula Dawson. So if you don't mind.
All right. Well, first of all, I have to, if anyone's listening who's helped me in the past, I have to apologize if I don't remember your name because really, or mention you, because I've been so fortunate and had so many people and so many laboratories help me that I'm sure we'd run out of show time if I had to say all of them. But let me just say how I first started. Well, I started when I went to art school, and I majored in sculpture. And I wanted to work with light installations. I'd heard about Rockne Krebs' work, and whilst I was making laser installations, I read about Margaret Benyon's work, and started learning how to make holograms by joining science education students. And then the Commonwealth Scientific Research Organisation in Australia, the CSIRO, that does a lot of government-funded research. The very brilliant scientist Dr. Harry Horan was there, and Zoltan Hegedus, and I went there. It was in another town in Australia from where I lived, and I flew to that town and asked them if they'd help me make some holograms, which they did. But the main wonderful introduction they gave me was to Dr. Beatty Steele, was who was at the CSIRO, was chairman of the World Optics Board, and he knew all I ever really wanted to do from when I started was to make huge spaces that were sort of not too huge, comparable to the spaces we live in, because my intention usually is, no matter what scale I make, is that people can kind of imagine themselves walking into the virtual environment that I make. So right from the very beginning, I wanted to make big rooms, and Dr. Beatty Steele was chairman of the World Optics Board, and the conference was held in Besançon that year. And at Besançon, Tribillon, Fournier, Abicher, and sorry, I can't remember all of them, had just made the world's biggest laser transmission hologram of the Venus.
The Venus, yeah.
And Jean Vino, the head of the lab then, was approached by Dr. Beatty Steele, who said, would he consider having an Australian artist in residence there? And he said, yes, we'd love to have an artist. And so eventually I got over there and became a kind of apprentice to Nicole Abicher. And I wasn't able to make anything large the first time I went there because my grant applications were all rejected to the Australia Council, which is our funding body here for the arts. But when I was there, the lab themselves actually paid for me to make a small work. It was called Demand, which was like of a small bathroom installation. So whenever you looked in the mirror, you saw someone else's face, and the hand basin had, instead of water, a mirror which reflected the light, which reconstructed the hologram of a pair of hands washing themselves, so that it was like this bathroom was personified by a different person. And I worked with pulse lasers there. Bernard Kaki, who was a brilliant laser scientist. And I came back to Australia and then got sponsorship through my university and through AGFA, who made a couple of special big plates for me in Mortsel. So I had a lot of different sponsors. I went back to Besançon, and with massive help from Claudine Baynier and Nicolas Bicher and Bernard Kaki, they virtually made the hologram for me of the lounge room. And I was just kind of there and explaining how I wanted it to be. And that hologram was quite unusual because it had so many different sources of illumination within it, and all the light seemed to come from objects in the room. So rather than there being light on an object, the lamps were on, the television was on. It was like a living room. Mm-hmm. And so that really got me started. And once I showed that hologram, enormous opportunities opened to me. And, I got various commissions from the federal government and private patronage. But the other major institution of great support has been MIT. Steve Benton was my co-PhD supervisor over a 5-year period. And I spent some of my PhD time at MIT, and I did Steve's course in spatial imaging, which was part of the coursework of the master's degree in science. And
what year was that you were up at MIT? What
years?
Oh,
dear.
Oh, never mind.
I can't remember. Like, my daughter was about 3, and she's about 17 now, so...
Yeah. I did a summer program up at the Center for Advanced Visual Studies. I believe it was in 85. Harriet Caston Silver had her lab there in the building, and they were just building for the media lab. That wasn't completed yet.
Oh, no, it was much more recent than that. I actually went into the Wiesner building.
Okay.
And, yeah, it was in the Wiesner building that I was doing my experiments and stuff like that.
Okay. Now I've got you completely lost because I interrupted.
Yeah, I can't remember now. Oh, anyhow, so I've just, I suppose through going to Lake Forest conferences, I've made lots of friends, international friends, and I stay in touch with, a lot of people in the community who I met there. And obviously I'm really good friends with most of the artists. We know one another and try to, keep up with what we're doing.
How difficult is it? I mean, the things you were speaking about, there's a lot of art in there, there's a lot of technology in there, but I take it that in order to become a success, not only with holography, but I guess with everything in life, especially with holography, there's a lot that you need to do as far as networking, have the right connections, and have things fall in place for you in order to get anywhere. I guess it's the same with anything in life, right?
Well, it's so funny. I have this phenomenon in my life that whenever I ask for anything, I always get rejected. So usually when I play for grants, I don't get them. But then something sort of out of the blue happens, like someone rings me up and says, "Oh, Paula, we want you to do this." And like I haven't sort of done anything or called anybody. So I think I'm just sort of one of those people who's born under a lucky star, really. I can't kind of tell you that I do anything. I don't have a business card or anything like that. I just sort of, do my thing. My day job is I teach drawing at New South Wales University at the College of Fine Arts, and I've been there for 16 years now in the School of Art. So I'm an associate professor at the university. That's my job that kind of, keeps me going.
Yes.
And so that means that, if there isn't a big commission going or something, that's okay. I'm just kind of keeping going on.
The best and most successful projects are the ones that find you.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Because then the person really, because each time I do something, I really want to do something completely different. So I can't exactly tell the people how it's going to turn out before it starts. So if they find me, they know that I know they just sort of trust me and that they want me to do something. That was the case with that new work, The Light for John. I got a new work award from the Australia Council at long last, And it was just money to make a brand new work, whatever I wanted to make.
Well, that's wonderful.
And that's what I made, the new work that you see.
When I left for vacation this year over the summer, I'm a little bit of a workaholic.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's vacation time, but I could take one vacation day to do holography. So I contacted the art school, which is located in the city where we went for vacation. I sent them an email. I told them to just let me know if they would be interested, that I would bring down a laser, I would bring down a selection of holograms, and I would, gratis, for no pay, do a presentation for them if they wanted to do like a lunch and learn or something like that for the staff, and to show them about holography, what holograms are all about, how lasers work, and how things are going. I never even received an email back saying no thank you. But then again, all the other things that I have going on are things that I don't even ask about. It's just people contact me.
It's incredible,
so I'm not even sending anything out anymore.
No.
Yeah. Well, since we're coming up on 22 minutes, I have a few questions from students that are in a high school holography program.
Yeah.
Would you mind answering a couple questions?
If I can.
Okay. Well, they sent a bunch of them. So I picked, there's 3 students that were chosen.
Yeah.
And they sent a couple questions each. So I'll just go down so that we can get at least one question from each of them.
Sure.
Okay? Okay. And now this one's from Sarah, and this is from, the program is the Advanced Holography Program through the Communication Technology Program at Inglewood High School in Jacksonville, Florida. So we thank them for sending the questions in. This is from Sarah. What advice would you give a high school female who wants to pursue a career in holography?
Well, just do it, really. Well, I suppose just learn everything you can, and I suppose make contact with people who you can actually see in real life. If I was in the States, I'd go to New York and see Anna Maria Nicholson. I think she's lovely, and she helped one of my students, Amy Rush, enormously. She's a fantastic supporter of young talent. You can find your way to New York. I would definitely go there. But just, of course, first of all, do your own thing so that you have a bit of experience, so you know what questions to ask when you go and see other people who might help you. But I think you'll find a lot of willing people out there. Okay.
And I would just like to let the listeners know that Anna Maria Nicholson actually has an opening for her exhibit starting this Saturday at the Holo Center. So look to the HoloTalk email blast that'll go out for information on that. Now the second question, and these are probably pretty open-ended questions, so prepare yourself. This is from Brittany, and one of Brittany's questions is, in your opinion, is it harder for you as a female to do your job?
Well, I just changed my job so it's easy for me to do, because I can't really, I don't want to change that I'm a female, so I just change it so that my job is good for me and it suits me. So I think if you do what you love doing, then it's easy and you really enjoy it. So just make it suit you. That'd be my advice. Okay.
And this one's from Carolyn. And Carolyn, it says here, is the #1 student. So here's the question. And these are high school students now.
Yeah.
Where do you think holography will be in the next 25 years as an art and as an industry?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I'm not really good on those big prediction things, because artists, we're all sort of self-obsessed. You probably gathered that. We're kind of wondering more where we're going to be in 25 years is a long time. So, but what I hope is that holo video is just like totally normal, and that, everyone can do it, and then you can have projected figures and you can talk to virtual people just like how it was in the films. In fact, I have another project called The Legend of the True Hologram. I gave a paper about it at the Wales conference, and it traces the history of how holograms have been represented in films, and it shows a kind of a blending between real holograms and projections of holograms. But I would say that entertainment is quite different from art, because entertainment kind of makes you forget about who you are, whereas art helps you remember.
Well, that's very nice.
That's kind of how I see it. So my work really is very much addressed to the person who's looking at it, and and it tells you something very revealing about yourself, and it is like looking into a mirror. I mean, clouding over a mirror for me is a metaphor for actually self-reflection. So I think irrespective of the future of the medium itself, the ways in which it will be used are very important, and I think it's always crucial that artists have access to using these things, because inevitably the way in which they use them will be entirely different. You know, there'll be a whole pile of people trying to drive you crazy, a la the great science fiction novelist who kind of predicted that, like, there'd be living advertisements getting into your car with you. Well, I mean, holography may be used to make people want to buy more things and do more things, and in my opinion make them more happy and more dissatisfied with who they are and where they are. And let's just hope that artists take hold of the medium and help to make people think about where they are and where they'd like to be, and that would be my hope for the future for holography.
The 25-year part of that question sort of like just hit home with me while you were speaking. I realized that, you know, I might not even be here in 25 years.
Yeah.
There's a good chance of that now. You know, being 50 years old, I mean, odds are I may not be here. So,
I'd say they'll keep you going forever the way things are going. I'd say, you know, you won't be able to get out of it.
Yeah. That's a tough question considering the answers that were given 25 years ago to the same question, and not many of those answers ever really came to light yet.
I think it gets asked quite a lot, but there are only a few people who are actually really making it keep on going. And if you watch those people and see how hard they work and how much support they get, you can probably imagine that, yes, it actually is going to happen, that there are going to be projected holograms. I mean, a lot of things have happened very, very quickly over the last couple of years. Like, look at the Giola's holographic printing machine where you can just have your hologram made for you. It's fantastic. People no longer need to actually know the ins and outs of all the technical things. They just need to know visually how they want their hologram to look, and they can send TIFF files to Lithuania and get a hologram back in the mail. I think it's just fantastic.
I think that's good for handcrafted holography as well, because anytime you have something where technology moves in and takes the craftsmanship out of any particular field, anyone who still is a craftsman benefits by that.
Yeah, because it makes a clear distinction.
Sure, like a furniture maker or a cabinet maker. You know, I mean, furniture's, you know, made by robots and the wood's cut and everything's put in a box and people take it home and put it together.
That's right.
But then you've got cabinet makers who actually now charge more for their work because it's more unique and it's more of a craft.
Oh, look, and there's certain things that you just absolutely, I mean, there's so many different things that you absolutely cannot do like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, I mean, you just can't achieve so many effects by that method.
You do work in a lab, don't you?
I don't actually have my own lab at the moment. I have a studio. That's the little JPEG I sent you is my studio, so I kind of draw and do my wax sculptures and things like that.
But you have created your own holograms at times, right?
Oh, yes, quite a lot. But I don't actually at the moment have my own lab. I kind of tend to go and go and work with other people in their labs now, because things have become so specialized. I've actually built about 3 labs from scratch. I built a research lab at the College of Fine Arts where I used to teach holography. And I built, obviously, that gigantic laboratory in which I built an entire bar room that could house 30 people and made holograms of it. And I also fitted out another laboratory in Melbourne, which was an old cool room, a cool store.
I wish you would come here and build a bar for me that would fit 30 people in my house.
Well,
I don't even have a bar in my house.
You have to come to Australia and see it, because the great news is that that bar is now owned by Macquarie University here in Sydney. Okay. And they're actually looking to find sponsorship to build that into a whole functioning bar and have a whole dedicated room for it.
That may wind up in Las Vegas or something, you know? Because I know many of the casinos are actually they're dismantling pubs in Ireland and England, and putting them on ships and then rebuilding them right in the casinos.
How amazing.
Yeah, so
I had no idea.
There's what money does, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Paula, unfortunately, we're hitting around 30 minutes, and I have to try and keep the file size as small as possible because there's so many people that access this that don't
wonderful.
have, dial-up, that don't have high-speed connections, so it's a long download for them. Maybe someday, we can do hour shows and things like that.
No worries. Thanks so much for interviewing me. And I hope I say to the students, I just want to say to the students, I hope it's pretty hard to answer those very deep questions, in a short period of time. And I hope I've answered your questions okay. And I just want to wish you the very best and to encourage you to do everything you can to learn as much as possible and to stay in touch with one another. I think it's important to be part of the holographic community because you'll get so much support like that. It's too hard to do it on your own. It really is. So please get all the support and help you can from people who are nearby to you, because also it's pretty tricky to communicate things about holography long distance, because it really is, as you said, it really is a very hands-on process, and so you need someone who lives near you so that you can actually see with your own eyes, feel with your own hands how to do it. Mm-hmm. But keep it up. It certainly is worthwhile. That's my sort of message. And thank you.
I hope that one day I can have the ability to have people call in and speak with guests on the show.
Oh, yes, holographically. That would be very nice.
Maybe just on the phone I'd be happy with right now.
Okay.
I don't have that capability yet, but I'd like to get it where, while you would be a guest on the show, someone would call in and ask questions.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I can't do that yet, so maybe someday. But is there anything that I didn't ask about that you'd like to say to the listeners while I still have you on here?
Oh, we'll do it another day.
Okay. Oh, it was very nice talking to you.
Likewise.
I hope one day we get a chance to meet.
Yeah.
And I've heard your name for years, and
yeah, me too. I've heard yours as well, and I've looked on your site to get information, and obviously my site's linked. Oh yeah, can you say my website? Oh,
I'm going to have a link to your website right on the
lovely.
the page. If you'd like to have your email address on the page, I'll put that on there. If you don't want to have your email address,
not really.
Okay, so
because I'm finishing a massive project at the moment that has to be done by Christmas.
Okay. Well, just keep in mind, anybody that goes over to your website, they can find your email address.
Oh, I know. But it'll take a little longer.
Okay. So just so I don't get in trouble.
That's fine.
All right, Paula. Well, you enjoy the rest of the day, and I'm going to finish this up, get it up, and then it'll be bedtime for me.
Oh, lovely.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.